York County is so much more than just a stop for gas on I-80. 17 County is filled with unique individuals with unique stories just waiting to be told. Welcome to the 17 County Podcast with your host, Emily Perry.
This is 17 County Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, and listen on your favorite platform. This helps our podcast grow, and we thank you for your continued support. We would like to thank our York County Development Corporation stakeholder investors, Agri Products, BGIN USA, Cornerstone Bank, York General, Central Valley Ag, and York State Bank. Without these great stakeholders, we wouldn't be able to focus on the growth and development of York County here at the YCDC. So thank you. And now, let's get to the conversation.
I am here with Emily Eggar. She is a York University alum, a phlebotomist at York General, an assistant at Century House Chiropractic, and is also a volunteer firefighter and EMT with York Fire and Rescue. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So tell me about you. That's a lot going on just right there.
Yeah. So I moved here to York in 2019, and I came here for college. I went to York University. I studied science there. I graduated in 23, and I actually left for a little bit.
Oh, wow.
My plan was to go to medical school, but I wasn't accepted. So then I got a job teaching high school at my old high school. They asked me to come kind of fill in for them, so I did that for a little bit up in Montana, which is where I'm originally from.
Fun.
Yeah, but I did not study education. So, I did my best, and they were happy to have me, and I loved it, but they had better options this school year, and so I was accepted into medical school, but didn't get to go because it was in Canada, and my visa was denied. So I was like, well,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'll just go back to York for the time being, and it was a great choice. I'm super happy to be back.
Well, we're probably happy to have you.
Yeah.
Talking for me.
Yeah.
So you said you're originally from Montana. What brought you to York? What made you choose York?
Well, I really wanted to go to college at a Christian university. And so I visited all the big name ones like Oklahoma Christian, Abilene, Pepperdine, all of those. And my mom basically forced me to visit York. She's like, just give it a chance. And I was like, no. I don't know why. I don't know why I had so much against it. But we visited, and as soon as I stepped on campus, I just knew that was going to be home for 4 years. So that's why I came here, is I really just loved the community of York College at the time, and just the town itself was just so homey, and it was small enough that it felt safe and comfortable, but big enough that it's not super boring, and so that's why.
Got a Walmart.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotta go to that parking lot, I guess.
Yeah.
So your family wasn't from the area. What was it like growing up in Montana?
Well, I actually grew up on an Indian reservation in northeastern Montana, which definitely gave me some interesting cultural background that I didn't realize I had until I moved here, where that's, obviously everybody knows a lot about Native Americans, but they're not as prevalent here. And so that was kind of cool, a cool cultural aspect of my background.
Yeah.
But I just grew up in small town America, just like you guys did here, just in a different.
Yeah, probably a little colder up there.
Definitely a little colder, but for the most part, very similar to York, but just in a different place.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what was your experience like going to York University?
I loved it. Like I said, I was really attracted to the community feel of it. And that's exactly what I found when I was there. It's small enough that you know everyone, but not so small that you get tired of everyone.
Yeah.
And my professors, they knew me really well, and they were very willing to work one-on-one, and I really thrive in an environment like that. So I would say it was a really great experience. Definitely what I was looking for and what I needed at that point in my life. So it was awesome.
Having those relationships with your professors that you can go and talk to them and be comfortable.
So valuable.
It makes a huge difference. It really does. So outside of work, we'll get more into the details of your work, but are you involved in anything in York community-wise, or?
I am a volunteer on the fire department, so that's something that I do. Community-wise, I go to East Hill Church, so I do stuff
Very
with them
cool.
occasionally. I'm very introverted, so
Yeah.
outside of work and like my typical things, I just don't do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I like to read, so I spend a lot of time at the library. But those are kind of like my main things. I'm kind of a homebody, so
I mean, you got a lot of work going on,
yeah.
and then church, and then library. I mean, got a full life.
Yeah.
So why science? How did like you find that love for science?
Oh, that's a good one. So I was homeschooled in like grade school.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that my mom had me do as a homeschooled student was compete in the regional science fairs
Oh, cool.
because it was a really good way for me to get a lot of experience and exposure with different types of academia. So the research side and the writing side and the presentation and all of that. So I started doing that when I was in 6th grade and I just loved it. I was very competitive. I worked really hard. I put a lot of heart and soul into it, and I just loved doing the research and presenting the project and doing it on a competitive level.
Of course.
So, I mean, I carried that with me into high school, and I even did it at the high school level a little bit. And so, moving into college, science was the obvious major of choice. I mean, my career path has changed a lot since then, but it's always been in that area. It's just my knack, it's what I'm good at. So
That's fair.
yeah.
You can do a lot with science, no matter which way you go.
Yeah.
So, what is your role at York General?
So I am a part-time phlebotomist.
Mm-hmm.
I started working there when I was, let's see, I think it was before my senior year of college.
Okay.
And they actually kind of built a position so that I could do that, which was super awesome.
That is cool.
Yeah, and so now they have a phlebotomy internship position.
Wow.
And there are a lot of high school students, a lot of college students that are able to work in that position and learn phlebotomy, learn healthcare, learn patient care. But it's very flexible to their, really busy high school and college schedules. So that's kind of what the position I'm in now, but I'm not in college anymore. So I have a little bit more set hours, but I draw people's blood. That's, technically what I do, but I'm part of the care team and I take care of patients and I work with the nurses and I work with the doctors and we just try to get people feeling better.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
There's something about helping people, just taking care of people, knowing you're making a difference, no matter in what area. It's pretty nice. So, how did you end up at York General? Like, did you get recommended? You're just like, gonna go draw blood.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even really remember. I think I met the lab director, Bill Bolte, because he came to our campus for like a career outreach event that our science club was hosting, I think. And I think I just reached out to him and I was like, hey, could I work there? So, and I mean, obviously they had to kind of figure some stuff out, but then I was able to do that in that part-time flexible capacity. So yeah, I think I just reached out and they were like, oh, let's see what we can figure out. And then one thing led to another. So
I think like using those types of events are really underrated.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I feel like a lot of students go to those things and they're like, oh, no one's gonna hire me or it's a lot of work or whatever. But just communicating and networking and reaching out to people, you can get really far.
I think building connection is one of the most important things you can do.
I agree.
And also just being willing to ask, it was kind of scary for me to ask him that. Because he could have just been like, no, sorry. Yeah. But that's the worst thing that can happen.
The worst thing is no.
Exactly. And that's not even that big of a deal once you get over the fear of it. So I think it's, if I was to give myself advice back then, I would just remind myself to always be willing to ask and to just build connections and really network as best you can.
Yeah. Me too. I think that advice is huge for especially high schoolers, especially college students, but super important. So, what would be your favorite part of being a phlebotomist?
I just really love getting that patient contact and being able to just converse with the patients and kind of like get to know them a little bit. I mean, sometimes they're having a really bad day. Yeah. So they're, they're harder to connect with, but I like to think of myself as a relatively positive person. And I really pride myself on being able to just put a little bit of sunshine into somebody's bad day. Yeah. So even if they're having a bad day, if I can be in there and just give them a smile. It just makes me feel good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You never know what you smiling can make
Mhm.
such a difference in someone's day.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's huge. Have you ever had to deal with people, same deal is a bad way, but like had people that are terrified of the needles and stuff?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's actually a lot more common than you might think.
Really?
So it's really important just for me as the phlebotomist, the person with the needle, to just communicate with them and let them know like what I'm doing every step of the way and
That's
listen to
fair.
them and just put them at ease the best you can. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you can't, but you do your best.
Do what you can.
Yeah.
Get them through it.
At Cornerstone Bank, we are committed to providing you the best in banking products and service. With 46 locations throughout Nebraska, we are dedicated to serve you. Cornerstone Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
This episode is brought to you by York University and PTUSA York. Now, let's get back to the episode. So like what are your most of your days like in that position?
So most of my days I come in for like the later shift,
Mhm.
so I don't have to do a lot of the morning stuff.
Okay.
So typically I just work with outpatients coming in to get blood draws or to provide specimens. And then primarily I'm in charge of getting ER draws. So if somebody comes into the ER and they need their blood drawn, like that's usually what I'm doing in the later hours.
Mhm.
So kind of a combination of outpatients coming in and ERs.
Fair.
Yeah.
I bet that can be slightly interesting sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
So, outside of being a phlebotomist, the amount of times I'm saying that word, I'm like, is that right? How else do you stretch your talents in the healthcare field?
Oh, that's a good question. So I absolutely love working in healthcare. So, like you mentioned at the beginning, I do work at Century House Chiropractic occasionally. I worked there pretty much all through college on Saturdays.
Very cool.
So now I just fill in when I can, when they need me. And that's just kind of a similar thing. I just get to work with the patients, get them set up on like the massage table, and just talk to them, get to know them, just be a part of their day, you know?
A friendly face.
Exactly. And then I also recently just got my EMT certification.
Very cool.
So I can help out with York Fire in that way. I can be, you know, part of their care team with that, which is really awesome and I love it.
Yeah. What does that all entail?
So as a volunteer on York Fire, they have career staff and they have volunteers. So the career staff like typically handle most things, but sometimes they'll get lots of calls all at once. And so they'll need those volunteers to kind of supplement. So I'm there for that supplementation when it's needed. Or sometimes they'll have a patient that needs to be transferred from one hospital to another. I like to help out with that.
Yeah.
But a lot of days I just go, if I'm not doing anything, I just go hang out with them and I just learn from their paramedics and just contribute to the patient care in any way that I can. Which usually isn't a lot, but I do my best.
Yeah, I mean, it all makes a difference.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite parts about like working in that specific field in the EMT at York Fire and Rescue?
I like that it's never the same.
Oh yeah.
So it's never mundane. I mean, you never know when a call's gonna drop. You never know what it's gonna be. You know, some days are not super exciting. They're just like, quote, boring calls.
Yeah.
But those are good, you know, like you don't want a bad call. But you never know what you're gonna get. And I really like that because when things get too predictable and they're too continuous, I get kind of bored. I think everyone does.
A little mundane.
Yeah. So I just like that it's just a little unpredictable. Not so much so that it's unmanageable, but enough that it's nice and exciting. Yeah.
Growing up, did you ever think you would work in like healthcare?
No. I really thought I was going to work in research because that's what I did like for all those science fairs. I thought I would maybe do medical research.
That's fair.
But I really did not picture myself as a front lines like medical worker. I don't know why. I guess I just didn't. I think part of me when I was younger only thought that nurses and doctors existed. Like I didn't understand all of the other careers that you can have, and I didn't want to be a nurse and I didn't want to go to school forever to be a doctor, and so I just didn't think I would do that. There's a lot of other career options in healthcare that I didn't even know existed.
There really are.
Yeah.
So with all three of these things, you're constantly getting tons of experience. Do you have any idea where you want to like end up ultimately?
Right now, I'm really, really into the EMS. So I'm planning to go back to school and get my paramedic and definitely do paramedic for a while. I think someday I would like to go back to school and become a doctor. Like previously, doors have kind of shut in that direction, but I have a lot of life left to live.
Oh, yeah.
So I think someday I will definitely go back to school and get my doctorate or my MD in something. But for the time being and for the next little bit, I definitely want to focus on that emergency medical service. So
That's awesome. Can do a lot of good in that field. Okay, let's do our hot potato questions. So these are kind of just like this or that or would you rather-ish. So the first one, and this one's really fitting for the day of us recording this podcast, but hot or cold weather?
Cold weather. You can
Really?
always put more clothes on, but you have to stop taking them off at some point.
Yeah, you do.
So I'd rather be cold.
Yeah, it's pretty cold out today, but
Yeah.
some days it gets really dang hot out and you're just
dying. You're just sticky. Yeah, I don't like that feeling.
It's not fun. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I'm an early bird. Early bird for sure. I go to bed at like 8 p.m. sometimes.
I feel you there.
Yeah.
Does that ever get hard with your type of work?
Sometimes, yeah. But also being able to get up early and get going is also really beneficial in that field. So it's kind of a give and a take, but
yeah. Sneakers or sandals?
Sandals.
Yeah.
Sandals. I'm a Chaco girl.
I love my Chacos.
I love my Chacos.
You know, sandals kind of work in the heat, though.
That's true. That's true. But sometimes I wear sockos.
Oh.
Socks with my Chacos.
That's fair. That's fair. Good point.
Yeah.
Mondays or Fridays off? If you had to do a 4-day week.
I think I would want Fridays off. Yeah.
That's fair. Whenever you get a Monday off, it just feels like the longest week ever.
Yeah. It just messes me up.
I feel you there. Would you rather have breakfast or lunch? Like, which one's your favorite?
Breakfast.
Yeah.
I love breakfast.
I love breakfast food.
Yeah, I would eat breakfast food for every meal.
Good old pancakes and bacon. Chocolate chip pancakes.
So good.
I'm kind of hungry. Texts or phone calls?
I think it really depends on the person. If it's like my mom, I'm gonna call her.
Yeah.
You know, but if it's like my coworker, please just text me.
Yeah, it's like, why?
Yeah.
I feel you there. I think it really depends on the generation too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of my older family members, they're not gonna answer a text message. Or even some of my coworkers.
Right.
But are you more spontaneous or more of a planner?
I am a planner, almost to a
Yeah.
fault. So more recently in my life, I've been trying to be more spontaneous, but at my core, I'm definitely a planner.
I feel like being a super hard planner would be hard being a volunteer firefighter.
Yep. And you know what? Joining the fire department was a very spontaneous decision.
Yeah.
It was kind of scary, but I've loved it. So see, you gotta be spontaneous.
Awesome. What led you to wanting to join that?
Well, my dad was a volunteer firefighter for 20 years.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and since I couldn't go to medical school, I decided to get my EMT in the meantime, because that seemed like a good use of time.
Yeah, I mean, similar things.
Yeah, and, you know, they need EMTs on the fire department, so I was like, well, I'll just join.
Yeah.
And I've loved it, so it's been
awesome.
such a good experience, yeah.
That's awesome. Cats or dogs?
Oh. I want to say dogs, but I have a cat. So does that make me a hypocrite? Maybe a little.
I feel you there. I do. I grew up with cats and dogs, and now I only have a dog, but cats are pretty calm.
Yeah. I like them both. I do like them both. But I have a cat, so I might have to say cats. I don't know what the rules are.
I mean, cats can plan.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to make the cat mad. Yeah. Do you have any parting words of wisdom or stuff that we haven't talked about that you just feel the need?
I definitely think, like, if I was to go back in time and talk to myself and give myself advice, like we talked about earlier, I think it's just really important to just take chances. Yeah. Ask the questions, take the chances, just try things, because the worst thing that can happen is somebody says no or it doesn't work out, and that's not even that big of a deal. And then, so just take chances and just try things.
Yeah. Your life can truly change just by one chance you take.
Exactly.
It's pretty cool. Well, thanks for coming on and taking the time to chat. I feel like definitely learned a lot.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Of course.
In closing, we would like to again thank our stakeholders, the people who help us drive change. We would like to thank Henderson State Bank, Midwest Bank, Mead Lumber Company Incorporated, Nebraska Public Power District, York News Times, Collins Aerospace, and Perennial Public Power District. And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in. Until next time.